All right, I'm Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com, back at the Town Hall Media booth right here at CPAC's Media Row, just a couple of hours before Donald Trump will take the stage in the main ballroom right behind us, or right actually in front of us. And joining us right now is one of my friends that we hang out with each other almost at every CPAC, Jim Simpson, who is the author of Red Green Access 2.0, but more importantly, Jim is also running for Congress in Maryland's 2nd Congressional District. Jim, first off, great to see you. Great to have you here.
Great to be here.
This is a new thing for you. I don't know that I even knew that you had ambitions to run for Congress.
Well, you know, it's funny. There were many times I considered it in the past, but for one reason or another, it just was not workable.
Right.
You know, raising kids, you know, jobs.
Life.
Just, various different issues got in the way, and but that's not so this year. And also, more than anything else, this year, I believe, is the most critical year for elections, perhaps this century, perhaps ever, because we're going to decide this year if we are going to continue as a constitutional republic or take a nosedive on the suicidal path towards socialism.
Right.
And so I felt that if there was any time to jump in, this would be the time I have to do it. And also, you know, I've spoken all over the country on this issue and many issues for a number of years, and it is increasingly difficult to do so because we're blocked, we're doxxed, we have our venues shut down, threatened by Antifa types, Muslim Brotherhood types. Last fall, we had an event canceled at the last minute because the people, it was a church, and the church school's parents were literally afraid for the safety of their own children.
Yeah.
And I felt like, you know, I've been screaming at a wall for almost 20 years now, writing, blogging, and speaking, and I felt we're not getting enough traction.
So Jim, tell us a little bit about Maryland's 2nd Congressional District. Which communities are these, and who are the people that are in these districts?
Well, there of course is the Dundalk area with Sparrows Point, which is a very traditional, you know, where the steel yards used to be, and working class, hardcore working class folks who have essentially had all their jobs stolen from them by the Democrat-led Maryland legislature and by the 2nd District long-term incumbent Dutch Ruppersberger, who really needs to go. He pays no attention to the people in his district. That's a big one. It also stretches way up into Harford County, where the Aberdeen Proving Grounds are. It comes a little bit into South Baltimore City. It goes into Anne Arundel County and even across into Howard County. So it's like a squashed salamander.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it goes all over the place. But it's a mess, and the Democrats have made it a mess and kept it a mess, and Dutch Ruppersberger has done nothing to improve it. In fact, he encourages all the bad stuff that's been going on, especially and including the vast influx of illegal aliens and the MS-13 gangs as a result of the sanctuary policies of the state and the various locations. Yeah.
So this is an important race. Are there any other Republicans in the primary?
There's a number of other Republicans. Yep. There's a state senator. There's a state delegate, and there are a couple of other people. And you know, they're all good people, to be honest with you.
Right.
But I think I have the most qualifications just because of, well, I mean, 6 years in the White House Office of Management and Budget, doing budgeting and economic policy for the president and other high-level officials in the White House. Many years as a successful private businessman, and almost 20 years studying, writing, reporting on all the public policy issues that affect us every day.
Well, especially on issues like the Red Green Access 2.0,
Absolutely.
Existential Threat to America and the World. Give us a thumbnail description
Sure.
of what it is that you're talking about in this new book.
Well, the Red Green Axis is the alliance between the radical left in the United States, or actually, frankly, the entire left, including most of the Democrat Party, which is now radical left, and the Islamic organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood, the Council on American Islamic Relations in the United States. But this is actually a worldwide collaboration between the left and the Islamic radicals, if you will.
Right.
And they're dangerous. They are dangerous. It is not merely an organization that has sort of the loyal opposition. This is a subversive organization whose goal is to undermine and subvert our constitutional republic. And the reason the left has allied itself with the Muslims is because the Islam gets protection under the First Amendment. So they can be the greatest wrecking crew in the world and protected all the time by the First Amendment. And they take full advantage of it. And it is not to the advantage of Muslims. It is to the advantage of this radical group. Muslims can be just as much victimized as the rest of us because what their agenda is does not help anybody.
So let's talk about socialism,
Sure.
right? Because that's
Sure.
the big theme here at CPAC this year. America versus socialism. It's on every sign, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm looking over there, and I'm sure it says America. It says America versus socialism right over there.
Yep.
Is this do you think that this is an overreaction this year? I don't either.
No.
I don't think it's an overreaction. And if it hadn't been for Bernie Sanders going to the top of the Democratic primary list, I might have said, well, okay, maybe it's a little bit of an overstatement.
Yeah.
I don't think it is.
No. All of the presidential candidates on the Democrat side all have connections either directly or indirectly to not merely socialist organizations, but communist organizations. All of them. And they have all been supported and defended by these radical groups. And this is not a loyal opposition operation. This is people who want to see an entirely different United States. They want to see the United States of Cuba or the United States of Venezuela.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Or communist China. I mean, Bernie Sanders was saying no other nation had lifted more people out of poverty than communist China. Of course, they had also buried 45 million people between 1959 and 1962 in the Great Leap Forward.
Well, what's a few 100 million people between friends?
I mean, it's stunning. My feeling on this is that the Democratic Party hasn't been this close to a full socialist takeover since Henry Wallace got booted off the ticket in 1944, right? I mean, that was the reason why Truman was president, is because Henry Wallace was a Soviet sympathizer.
Right.
And Roosevelt forced him off the ticket.
Yeah, right. And the Democrat Party, for reasons known only to the communists, has been a target of the Communist parties going back into the 30s and perhaps earlier. I mean, the FDR administration was absolutely saturated with Soviet agents, many of whom, manipulated our effort in World War II to serve Soviet interests.
Right.
I mean, really, really diabolical stuff. And it didn't get any better in the 50s. McCarthy, for all his flaws, got it right largely. He identified many of the communists.
McCarthy, and here's where I would disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think McCarthy knew that there was an issue, and I think McCarthy exploited it for his own ends.
Well, that may be. Yeah.
And ended up self-destructing and doing a great deal of harm to the effort against them. That to me is, and you and I can debate that another time.
Well, I'll
too.
tell you. I'll just say one thing.
Yeah.
He could have been Jesus Christ, and he would have been crucified anyway.
Right.
Because the communists knew that any kind of exposure was threatening to their existence in the United States. And so they had to vilify and destroy him. And he very conveniently, cooperated.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So, but this is the moment, though. This is the America versus socialism moment that I think most of us thought after the fall of the Soviet Union would simply never arrive, because it had been the idea had been so thoroughly discredited, even as recently as Venezuela, right? I mean, they adopted the same style of Cuban communism, Cuban socialism that Bernie Sanders says, well, you got the literacy programs, and lifting people out of poverty.
Well, it's very interesting how, following the fall of the Soviet Union, we basically packed up our bags and went home, and communism spread throughout most of Africa and much of South America. So I look at it more as a tactical ploy than an actual real collapse of communism.
Well, and this is a reason
because a lot of people didn't get the memo.
Well, and I think we've all gotten the memo here at CPAC,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So you've got this really historical moment here
Yeah.
where CPAC is kind of returning to its Cold War roots.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cold War was a major driving factor in creating CPAC. To strengthen. I mean, this is Ronald Reagan and William F. Buckley and all these guys who were the Cold Warriors were trying to strengthen the right to push back against socialism.
Right.
So we're right back to where we started here at CPAC.
Yeah.
So anyway, Jim Simpson's running for Congress. What's your website? Where can people go to help you?
My website is JimSimpson4Congress.com, and you can either spell the 4 or put in the number 4. It'll get you there either way.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Most people do one or the other. That's smart.
Right, and I have a whole bunch of different extensions too, like US and org and all that.
Good.
But anyway, so go to that website, JimSimpson4Congress.com, and there's a great big donate button there right at the top. Press that like you're a hospital patient needing pain meds. Because frankly, that's the way we win. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. That is the way we win. And I will have to raise a lot of money to defeat this incumbent Democrat. I believe it can be done. I believe Maryland can be flipped. In fact, I believe that President Trump believes Maryland can be flipped.
I think Larry Hogan believes Maryland can be flipped.
Yeah.
He did it.
Yep. And he won twice in my district by significant margins.
There you go. Maryland 2.
Yep.
Jim Simpson for Congress. You can do it either way.
Please support my candidacy.
Jim, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Ed. Good to see you as always.
Good to see you, sir. I'm Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com, live from the Town Hall Media booth. We're just waiting for Donald Trump. Stand by for more.